I took two different approaches for creating this overall design. The first one that you'll be seeing in this video is going to be a full tutorial on how I created this design, which is perfect for those of you who are new to Grasshopper. And at the end, I also created another tutorial that is a time lapse of a different iteration, which have similar steps. So thank you very much for being here. I hope you find this video useful. If you want to download the script, check out my website, capettidavid.com. You can download the script completely for free until the next video script is released, and also stay up to date with resources and things like that. So thank you very much for being here, and let's jump right in. The first thing we'll do is create a circle, or actually I like to bring in a person. So I have a scaled person on my website. If you want to download it, you can drag it in, insert it, and I'll go ahead and just place it here. This will help me visualize the scale of the design. Okay, now let's start by creating a circle. Then we'll give it a radius. So let's go here, 25.5. Okay. Now with the circle, we can move it up. So we'll go here to move. We're going to move it up in the Z direction. So we'll go here to unit Z and plug in the circle into the geometry and then into the motion, the vector. And now let's change the height. So let's copy the slider. Okay. So this is going to be the initial height for the first. So these two will be lofted. Then there's going to be an additional circle. So I'll copy this down, create another circle. This one's going to be smaller, and we're going to move this up using a move component. We'll use this geometry, and we'll be moving this twice as much as the first one. So if we move this up by 29.2, we'll do multiplied by 2 or multiplication by 2. And we can use that vector and multiply it by 2. Now we have 3 circles. Let's disable the preview on this circle, and let's loft together the 3 base geometries that we have. So let's go here to loft. Holding down shift, you can add more. So now we can change the shape. Here's the thing, if the height is 29.2 and we multiply by 2, then this is actually, the overall height's going to be like 60. But if we take this number and we divide it by 2, that actually becomes the actual height. Because we're multiplying by 2, we have to divide by 2. Now let's label these. So this is going to be the, you can right click on the slider and change the name. Same with the height. Now that we have this surface, all we need to do is subdivide it. And so for that, there are different ways we can do that. We can use isotrim, which would be the way to subdivide this without using any additional plugins. Here we have the lunchbox, which lets us do a lot of things that are preset by this plugin. So that's what we'll be using today. Go ahead and download that if you don't have it already, and it's actually going to be very useful in the future. Okay, so now let's get into subdividing it. Let me align this. If you go here to panels, you'll see that we can subdivide this, and I'll actually be just using quad panels. So now with this one, let's change the subdivisions. We'll go here to 12. Change the maximum to, say, 20. We'll make 2 of these. and plug it into the U and V. Now let's disable the preview on the loft and all of the previous steps. So when we hover over the output for the panels, you'll see that we have 84 panels. What we'll be doing is we need to extract a surface or a frame or a construction plane right in the middle here. So what I like to use is evaluate surface and plug the panels into the surface, reparameterize. This way it thinks of this as 0 to 1. Now let's bring in an MD slider. And what this does is gives us the ability to pick out a point within 0 and 1 and 0 and 1, which gives it to us at 0.5. This should give us the center point. Now at this center frame, we're going to be creating a circle. So notice that it actually aligns it exactly to the plane. And the radius, it doesn't really matter. So let's just go here to 0.55. Make it a little bit smaller. And I'll disable the preview on this component because it's kind of getting in the way here. Okay. Now we're going to create a vector for us to be able to subdivide this panel. So I'll take this circle, use a divide curve. Now let's create a slider. I'll go here to 8. Now I'll connect the midpoint to those points. We'll create a line segment between the start of each of those panels to all of those points of each panel. So let's go here to point into the start point and points into the end point. Now notice it doesn't work because this is a grafted set and this is a flattened set. So it's connecting all of these to all of these points. Let's go here to the input and change it to graft. You'll notice that we've created a set of vectors that now we can pick from so we can subdivide the panel. Okay, so now let's take these line segments and let's pick one of them. So let's go to list item. Now we can select one of those and change it using a slider. So if we use a slider to change the index, we can change the way that we're going to be rotating this or subdividing it. Now let's bring in the component. It's called contour. Contour lets you create a contour on a surface. So we'll be using these panels as the shape. The point is going to be the center point. So we'll bring in this point as the location. The direction, we know it's going to be using this direction. And the distance, but notice that this is grafted, and the distance, we're going to use 1.5. So now what we need to do is flatten. We need to graft this point, graft this point, and plug in the distance. Notice that it will organize itself in a way that now when we can pick whichever vector and it will rotate the subdivision or the contours within that panel. This is a stepping stone here. Now we're going to move into creating a random, so picking randomly between all of these lines so you can create a randomly contoured panels. So the way to do this is we only have number 3 index selected for the direction of the contours. So what we need to do is to change it. How do we do that? Well, we know that the subdivisions have 8 So what we need to do is create a random set of numbers that we have. How many? 672? Or how many panels do we have? Well, for that, we have 84. We can go to a list length for that and flatten it here. This way we know how many sets of numbers we need here. And the range is going to be 8 of them, from 0 to 7, because that actually makes it 8 numbers. So we can either do construct domain or quotation marks 0 to 7. This gives us a panel with those numbers in. Now we can use that as the range, and the seed will go here to 3. So now let's go here to If we go here to math and we go to operations, there should be a absolute. Okay, let's see if there's a. So what we need to do is round this, even though it'll do it on its own. So we'll round this number to the nearest whole number. And this will give us a bunch of numbers between 0 and 8 that are random. And we can use that as the index input. Now here's the catch. We need to now just delete this and now bring in a graphed input, because it's going to do a different one for each. So now we'll go to nearest into the index. And now I can disable the preview on everything except for the contours and the surfaces. See here? All right, now let's change the seed, which means random solutions. And if you want the rotations to be at another angle for it to be random, that's where you increase this number. And the more subdivisions we have for the circle, the more random numbers we're going to have for the rotation. So if this has 8 or 12 ways that you can rotate it, that's how many it's going to rotate it by here. See, seed 0 to 7. Oh, okay. So this is where we need to tie this number to this range. So now we'll go here and bring in a construct. Construct domain. The end is going to be at 12. Start at 0. And now this number is going to be tied to the range here. Okay. Now let's change the number of subdivisions here from 12 to 20. So those are all the random rotations that you can kind of get here. To be honest, the best look is when you have something like 6 or 8. Those are kind of 45 degrees. Now, if you can go down to 3, and if we change that, it's going to be at 60 degrees. And just randomly using that, and then let's go back to 6. Even 5. Okay. Using this technique of subdividing this, now let's continue and create the wireframe. So you can see how we have 2 sets of subdivisions combined together into one. So now, using some of the tools that we have here under Lunchbox, let's subdivide it using the Generate tab, panel frame, and we'll be subdividing these panels using the scale factor. I like to use say like 0.88. Obviously we can change it, but like a larger number. And now, rather than using these panels as the subdivision, we'll be using the inner panel, which is this one, as the geometry we want to contour. So now we have a gap between the two. And if we hide previous step, you'll see that what this does is now we can create a outer frame, and this is going to be great because we're going to take this frame and extrude it. So under generate here, we have subdivide. There are, let's see if, I think there's a way to do it here, if I'm not mistaken, within Lunchbox, but I actually like to use just extrude. The panel is going to be the panel frame, and in which direction? Well, in the same direction as the surface. So perpendicular, or the normal of the surface. So we'll be using panel frame as the input, vector as the direction, and the panel frame as the base input. This will extrude it to the outside. I want to show you how we're going to create a detail between these as well. We may not do it on this one, but what I want to show now is, now that we have this, let's change this around a little bit. We're going to be, and we can change the amplitude, which means the amount that we're extruding. So we'll go here to 1.5. You can also do 0.5. This. Okay. Now we're going to be moving the inner panel halfway out here. So we need to, rather than extrude, we'll go to move, but rather than moving it the same vector, we'll be doing divided by 2, which means halfway in the same direction. Now we'll be using the panel frame as the input, or this panel as the input, and we've moved it and not extruded it at all. And now we're going to override the previous panels with this one, because now we know the offset amount, the complete offset amount. We're halfway. So if we create a pipe and it's going to be at 0.5, it will be exactly to the edges. So we can even use this, or a division of this number, to take these contours, create a pipe structure, and create the pipes within the contours. The radius is going to be, say, 0.15. Let's change the caps to round. So notice at 0.15, but if we use the distance here and we use the same number, no, that's going to be a little bit different because that's the direction of the contours, my bad. It's going to be, show you, it's going to be this one, 0.5. So we can do 0.5 so we don't think about it, divided by, we'll just do 3, or divided by 2. It's going to be a 1/4 inch radius, so a 1/2 inch diameter. Will be perfect. Now if I want to change this, make it a little bit smaller, I just increase the number to make it a smaller number here. Now notice that it kind of ends here. So in some instances we can extend that. But I actually think it looks pretty good like that. So let's disable the preview on everything except for the portion of the design that we have here at the end. And let's change this number of divisions here to 8. So 4 kind of makes it look cool like this, but the one thing that I haven't changed that I think is going to make a difference is this one. So let's go to 0.5. Now we're going to have a lot more geometry here, so we can possibly even lower this. And now if we change this a little bit more, I think it'll make more of a difference. Okay, now let's take these and basically color them so we can see them a little bit better. Right now they're a little bit transparent. So let's go to custom preview. And there are different ways I can color this. I'm going to show you a different way using color picker. Now let's change this. And we'll do the same thing to the frame. And now let's copy that over, bring this into here. One of the things I do is I tend to disable the preview on the wire display hidden. So now it's not necessarily tied to the script. Shoot. Let's do this again. It's not necessarily tied to the script, but we know it changes the overall design. So let's change this back to this. And even the material can hide this. And we can just copy this for anything that we create that's new. The wire display hidden. And let's label this. So this is going to be U division. Well, is the number of divisions. Oh, yeah, I just realized. The other thing we could do is obviously divide this further in a different direction. So, and we can change the form. So let's go to the top circle and change this up like this. That's pretty cool. Now let's change this back. Top circle, 5. The only thing about this is if you were to develop this, this meets at exactly a point here. So that would be very difficult to develop. One way to connect this would be to create this connecting portion, this little triangle, but that varies as you kind of go up here. That makes it difficult. Or we can do brackets or L brackets here at every connection. Those are kind of the different ways that I can see this working. But for now, let's change the colors on this a little bit. And also make a suggestion if you feel like, you know, or let me know what decision you would have made in that case. Let's also have the ability to change this. I'll go here to 0.100 and change the radius here. Maybe that's still not enough. Yeah, awesome. I think that looks great. I'm gonna see if there are any other things I can share with you guys. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll be cleaning this up. So we made it as far as U division, V division, frame size. This is frame extrusion. It's kind of irrelevant because that's how we create the pattern. The number of divisions, this is angle of rotation. I'll actually just group the ones that are kind of relevant to the design. So let's change this to seed, so randomize. This distance is the contour spacing. And this one is pattern structure. All right, great. So this is going to be an iteration that's a little bit simplified, and it's for those of you who are fairly new to Grasshopper and want to learn by using an exercise. So this will be perfect for you guys. At the end, you'll also see a time lapse, a completely different iteration of this that has a different result, but the idea is basically the same. So thank you very much for being here, and go to my website, download the script if you haven't already, and you'll be able to see exactly how I plugged everything in. So thank you for being here, and I hope to see you on the next one.